Jeff Kennett to launch the $1 million public...
In the third, to power away to their fourth straight win over Hawthorn. Sandy Roberts has the highlights.
Carlton defender David Kernahan returned to the Blues lineup and knew early on he was back in the big league. An intense opening caused mistakes, 2 early goals to Christo, and the Blues were looking sharp. But Glenn Nugent showed amazing skill for the Hawks, goaling at full tilt.
Good-looking kick.
The mistakes were proving costly as Hudson cut Carlton's lead to just 3 points. It was tough, uncompromising football, but Ayres' hard work paid dividends again for Hudson. The Blues were finding goals hard to come by, but the combination of Williams and Brown was profitable.
Brown goes for goal.
And former Wimbledon champ Pat Cash seemed happy with Hawthorn's 9-point lead at half-time. Carlton dominated from the start of the third quarter, and when Scholl goaled, scores were level. Madden pulled in one of the marks of the day. But umpire Hayden Kennedy was a casualty, benched with a knee injury. But the term belonged to the Blues, who doubled their score. Ronnie DiIulio kicked 2-3 as Carlton opened up a 24-point lead at the final change. The Blues answered every challenge today, and that sort of form come September would be more than handy. Victors by 31 points. Sandy Roberts, 7 Nightly News.
At the MCG, Geelong remained in the finals race with a vintage display against a disappointing North Melbourne, who has now lost 4 of its past 6 matches. For the first time in his distinguished career, Gary Ablett kicked 100 goals. He ended up with 10 goals as the Cats bounded away to a 94-point victory. As we reported last night, Mick Martin had the job of stopping Gary Ablett, but the great man didn't waste any time moving to 99 goals for the season. 4 minutes later, and Ablett had his sights on the ton.
Honours the lead to the pocket.
Ablett.
He's got it. And there it is.
The second fastest 100 in a season behind the great Bob Pratt. And how about the reaction of God's disciples?
And despite the protestations of officials, he has been besieged by people here at his favourite stage, the MCG.
A 6-goal first term by the Cats, and North had its problems. Schwass came off second best in this collision as Couch stretched Geelong's lead at the first change to 40 points. And for the first time this season, the Roos were kept goalless in a quarter. And more of the same from the Cats in the second term. As Ablett clashed with Clarkson, he had 4 by half-time, and Geelong had a 63-point lead.
Short pass, Hickmock from 45, another one!
Ablett's magic touch continued to bamboozle North's defence in the second half. Soon after, he brought up number 6. And while it was all over at three-quarter time, the final term was incident-packed, as Martin ended the game the same way as he began it.
Kicks into the man on the mark, and now 50.
As Ablett booted his 9th, Schwass was penalised for an off-the-ball incident. 2 goals for the price of 1, and it summed up North's woeful day. For the second time this season, reigning Premier the Eagles got the fight of their lives against lowly Richmond at Princes Park. The Eagles started well, but at half-time trailed by a behind. In the second half, they managed to shake off the gallant Tigers to run out winners by 19 points. Neil Brooks has the highlights.
Towards the end of the first term, it looked like the Premiers were sneaking away, with Derek Hall's first goal in the big time seeing the Eagles 14 points clear at quarter time.
Up the ground for the West Coast by Derek Hall.
The start of the second looked like the start of a nightmare for Richmond.
An open goal looms, he slams at goal and puts it through.
But they dug deep, firstly through former Eagle Todd Bremen, then Bruce Lennon.
They'll have to come back. It is coming back.
With Paul Harding coming off with an injured left knee, the Eagles were off the boil. The home side led by a point at the main break. The West Coast changed gear at the start of the third, with McIntosh making the difference in the forward line.
McIntosh can make it 2 goals in 30 seconds and does so.
And if you ask Bullis, the game was a tough one. For the Tigers, though, Jeff Hogg was keeping them in touch.
Sprints in the goal, and he's kicked it, I think, Jeffrey Hogg.
But with players like Don Pike and Chris Waterman, the Eagles limped home to a 19-point win. Neil Brooks, 7 Nightly News.
And at the Western Oval, Footscray had an easy win over Fitzroy. The Bulldogs were in control all afternoon and end up winning by 62 points. Royal booted 5 goals, while Lynch finished with 8 for the losers.
Adjusting to their new territory was not a problem for the Lions. 2 quick goals and they were right at home. But the Western Oval is Footscray's domain. Running the ball out of defence, the forwards had a field day. The Bulldogs mauled their way back with 6 unanswered goals. Wheeler wanted the leadership maintained. It wasn't long before the youngsters found some of their own. But Roos and Lynch led a charge. Lynch booted 3 for the quarter. Footscray, though, still had a firm 27-point lead. The Roy's backmen had to work hard, but nothing could stop Liberatore's luck. Lynch created some of his own with tremendous recovery, but another Bulldog surge and the gap was 43 points, much to the anger of Manson. Most times Footscray attacked, they converted. In the end, the home side posting an easy 62-point win.
To the ladder, and it's still the Hawks on match ratio from the Bombers, who moved to second after last night's sensational display against the Pride.
Out of the blocks, the British champion was flying in lane 4. Lewis in lane 5 was never in the hunt.
From the United States, here comes Linford Christie. Lewis from way behind, and Christie!
In fact, the American world record holder could only manage 3rd place. Christie cruised to victory in 10.09 seconds, well outside Lewis's world record set in Tokyo. After the race, the American appeared unhappy with the start, giving the impression his blocks had slipped. But video replays clearly indicated the start was clean and Christie was the clear winner in his own right. Aussie runner Dean Capobianco faded towards the end of the event and was amongst the tail enders. But the night belonged to Linford Christie. In London, Mike Smith.